Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, and welcome back to the AM and FM radio stations from across the country as we continue the Chicago FM stations reissue for January 2024. Part 1 with the non-commercial stations, that's already up. At part 3, where we'll look at the high end of the commercial band on FM from 100 to 108. That'll be coming up tomorrow. But today we'll be taking a look at part 2, which is the lower portion of the commercial band in Chicago. So with that, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. That being said, let's jump into the commercial band on FM in the Chicagoland area. And we're going to start things off with 92.3, channel 222. Broadcasting in high definition, that's WPWX, Hammond, Indiana. Power 92, number 1 in the streets. On 92.3 FM analog and 92 contemporary. And 92.3-2 is the urban contemporary gospel simulcast of Rejoice 102 WYCA. WPWX signed on the air in 1949 as WJIZ and became WJOB-FM in 1954, WYCA in 1959, WVJM, and later WPWX in 2001. That was when they launched the hip-hop format on this station. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 50,000 watts. Studios are located at 6336 Calumet Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. The station's offices are at 142 East Ontario Street, number 1400 in Chicago. The station's transmitter is off of Marble Street in Calumet City, Illinois. WPWX is owned by Crawford Broadcasting and licensed to Dontron Incorporated. Short space next to Power 92 on 92.5 channel 223 is WCLR DeKalb, Illinois, part of the K-Love radio network, featuring contemporary Christian music, signing on the air on December 17th, 1996 as WLBK-FM. They would change the call sign to WDEK in 1976, WCPY in 2008, WCPT-FM in 2014, and then the station would be purchased by EMF in 2018, and they would change the call letters to its current WCLR. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 20,000 watts. Programming originates from K-Love's headquarters in Rockland, California. Their transmitter is at 16801 Illinois State Route 23 in DeKalb, Illinois. WCLR is owned by the Educational Media Foundation, or EMF. The station originally aired at 99.1 FM and then moved to 92.5 in 1962. Short space next to them on 92.7 channel 224 is WCPY Arlington Heights. They have 2 brands for this station. Are known as Polsky FM during daytime hours and Dance Factory FM during nighttime hours. So this is pretty much 2 stations in one. They are a Polish station by day and a dance music station by night. WCPY signed on the air on March 10th, 1963 as WNWC. And this station had an identity crisis, undergoing 7 call sign changes with 7 sets of call letters until they became WCPY in 2014. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1,800 watts. Studios are located at either 6012 South Pulaski Road in Chicago or 5475 North Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago. WCPY's transmitter is at 121 West Boger Drive in Arlington Heights. WCPY is owned by NewsWeb Corporation. 93.1 Channel 226 is one of Chicago's highest rated stations. That's WXRT show broadcasting in high definition. 93 XRT goes home for music lovers. On 93.1 FM analog and 93.1-1 is Adult Album Alternative. 93.1-2 plays blues music. WXRT signed on the air as WSBC FM on March 15, 1960. And the station has identified as either WXRT or WXRT FM since 1963. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 6,700 watts analog, 267 watts digital. Their studios are located at 2 Prudential Plaza, 180 North Stetson Avenue, Suite 1100 in Chicago. Their transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, on top of the skyscraper previously known as the John Hancock Building. '93 XRT is owned by Odyssey Incorporated and licensed to Odyssey License LLC. 93.5 Channel 228 is WVIV-FM, Lamont, Illinois. Latino Mix, 93.5. This station plays Spanish CHR and rhythmic hits. They signed on the air as WASP on April 17, 1960. They became WJTW in 1985, WVIX in 2003, and WVIV-FM in 2017. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,500 watts. Their studios are located at either 541 North Fairbanks Court, number 11 in Chicago, or 129 West Boger Drive in Arlington Heights. The station's transmitter is at 1 Tower Lane in Oak Brook Terrace. WVIV-FM, otherwise known as Latino Mix, 93.5, is owned by the Euphoria Audio Network and licensed by Univision Radio Illinois Incorporated. 93.9 Channel 230 is another 93.9 Channel 230 broadcasting in high definition is another one of Chicago's most listened to stations. WLIT-FM Chicago. 93.9 Light FM. On 93.9 FM analog and 93.9-1 is soft adult contemporary for much of the year and Christmas music during the holiday season. And there are no additional subchannels. WLIT-FM is affiliated with iHeartRadio and Premier Networks. The station signed on the air on April 7, 1958 as WEBH-FM. They would drop the FM suffix from its call sign in 1959 and then became WWEL in 1970, WLAK in 1972, and the current WLIT-FM in 1989. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,000 watts analog, 159 watts digital. Their studios are located inside the Illinois Center at 233 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 3000 in Chicago. Their transmitter is located atop the Willis Tower at 233 South Wacker Drive in Chicago. WLIT-FM, or 93.9 Light FM, is owned by iHeartMedia and licensed by IHM Licenses, LLC. Their programming is relayed on translator station W256CL 99.1 FM, Park Forest, Illinois. 94.3, Channel 232 is WAWE Glendale Heights, part of the Air One network, featuring Christian worship music affiliated with Air One. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,500 watts. Studios are located at the K-Love headquarters in Rockland, California. Their transmitter is shared with WVIV at 1 Tower Lane in Oak Brook Terrace. WAWE is owned by Educational Media Foundation, or EMF. 94.7, Channel 234, broadcasting in high definition, is WLS-FM Chicago. 94.7 WLS-FM, Chicago's classic hits. On 94.7 FM analog and 94.7-1 is classic hits. 94.7-2 is the news talk simulcast of AM 890 WLS. WLS-FM signed on the air as WENR-FM on January 1st, 1948. They would undergo 6 call sign changes with 6 sets of call letters until they became WLS-FM in 2008. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,400 watts. Studios are located on the 6th floor of the NBC Tower at 455 North City Front Plaza Drive in Chicago. Of course, the NBC Tower houses NBC owned and operated station WMAQ TV Channel 5, as well as Telemundo owned and operated WSNS TV Channel 44 and NBC Sports Chicago. The WLS-FM transmitter is atop the Willis Tower at 233 South Wacker Drive in Chicago. WLS-FM is owned by Cumulus Media and licensed to Radio License Holdings, LLC. Short space next to them on 94.9 Channel 235 is WDKB DeKalb, Illinois. 94.9 WDKB, featuring a hot adult contemporary format. This station signed on the air on August 13th, 1990. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,000 watts. Their studios are located at 2201 North 1st Street in DeKalb, Illinois. Their transmitter is at 2570 Twombly Road, I think they pronounce it. That's located in Malta, Illinois. WDKB is owned by Midwest Family Broadcasting and licensed to Long 9 Incorporated. 95.1 Channel 236 has 2 stations. The first is WIIL, Union Grove, Wisconsin. They're known as 95 Will Rock, featuring an active rock format. This station signed on the air as WLIP-FM on December 22nd, 1962. They became WJZQ in 1978 and IIL with its current rock format in 1992. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 50,000 watts. Their studios are located at 6170 West Grand Avenue, Suite 111 in Gurnee, Illinois. The station's transmitter is on Green Bay Road or Wisconsin State Route 31 in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. WIIL is owned by Alpha Media and licensed to Alpha Media Licensee LLC. And this is probably the only station that covers both Chicago and Milwaukee, in its central location in Union Grove. The second station on 95.1 is WVUR FM Valparaiso, Indiana. They're known as The Source 95 WVUR, which is a college radio station, signing on the air on September 25th, 1966. They have a Class D license with the FCC, broadcasting at 36 watts. The studios and transmitter are both located on the campus of Valparaiso University. The studios are at 1806 Chapel Drive. Their transmitter is off of Lucanau Drive, both located in Valparaiso, Indiana. WVUR-FM is owned by Valparaiso University and licensed to the Lutheran University Association, Incorporated. 95.5 Channel 238, broadcasting in high definition, is WCHI-FM Chicago. Rock 95.5, Chicago's rock station. On 95.5 FM analog and 95.5-1 is mainstream rock. On 95.5 HD2, or should I say 95.5-2, is the main channel's former format and brand, country music, as Big 95.5 HD2. 95.5-3 is also a former format on this station, and that's smooth jazz, known as WNUA 95.5 HD3. WCHI-FM would sign on the air as WDHF on March 9, 1959. They would become WMET in 1976, WRXR in 1986, WNUA with its smooth jazz in 1987, WEBG with its country format in 2015, and WFM with its current mainstream rock format in 2020. They have a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 5,300 watts analog, 212 watts digital. Studios are located at the Illinois Center, 233 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 3000 in Chicago. The transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, which was formerly known as the John Hancock Building. WCHI-FM Rock 95.5 is owned by iHeartMedia and licensed to IHM Licenses LLC. 95.9 Channel 240 has two stations. The first broadcasts in standard analog, and that's WEFM Michigan City, Indiana. We FM. We play your favorite music. This is a full service adult contemporary and easy listening station with news and talk as well. They are affiliated with the Gary South Shore Railcats, which is a minor league baseball team. This is the Michigan City affiliate of the Indianapolis Colts, and they are also affiliated with the Regional Radio Sports Network. WEFM signed on the air in September of 1966 as WMC. They would become WEFM on May 31st, 1982. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,000 watts. Their studios are located at 1983 Springfield Avenue. Their transmitter is at 1811 Springland Avenue, both in Michigan City, Indiana. WEFM is owned by Michigan City FM Broadcasters Incorporated. The second station on 95.9 broadcasts in high definition, and that's WERV-FM Aurora, Illinois. 95.9 The River, rock and roll favorites. On 95.9 FM analog and 95.9-1 is a mix of classic hits and classic rock. They signed on the air on February 12, 1961 as WKKD-FM. They would identify as WKKD or WKKD-FM until they became WERV-FM in 2001. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 2,850 watts. Studios are located at 2410 Caton Farm Road in Crest Hill, Illinois. Their transmitter is at 1884 Plain Avenue in Aurora. WERV-FM 95.9 The River is owned by Alpha Media, licensed to Alpha Media Licensee, LLC. 96.3 Channel 242, broadcasting in high definition, is WBBM-FM Chicago. B96, Chicago's new hit music. On 96.3 FM analog and 96.3-1 is Gold Leaning Top 40. 96.3-2 is Channel Q, which is LGBTQ plus talk, dance, and top 40. WBBM-FM signed on the air in November 1941 as WGTC on 46.7 FM. So this makes it one of the oldest FM signals in Chicago. The station became WBBM-FM in 1943 and moved to 99.3 FM in 1946, 97.1 FM the following year in 1947, until landing on their current home at 90.3 in 1953. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,300 watts. Studios are located at 2 Prudential Plaza, located at 180 North Stetson Avenue, Suite 1100 in Chicago. Their transmitter is atop the Willis Tower at 233 South Walker Drive in Chicago. WBBM-FM, or B96, is owned by Odyssey Incorporated and licensed by Odyssey License LLC. 96.7 Channel 244 has 2 stations. The first broadcast in standard analog, and that's WCOE LaPorte, Indiana. There is no brand for this station. They feature country music and local news. Affiliated with ABC News. WCOE signed on the air in 1964. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,000 watts effective radiated power. Studios are located at 1700 Lincoln Way Place, Suite 5 in LaPorte, Indiana. The station's transmitter is near Country Club Drive and Holton Road in Center Township. WCOE is owned by Spoon River Media, LLC. The second station on 96.7 Channel 244 is WSSR Joliet, broadcasting in high definition. Star 96.7, your best variety. On 96.7 FM analog and 96.7-1, Hot Adult Contemporary. 96.7-2 is a news talk simulcast of WJOL AM. WSSR signed on the air on February 6, 1960 as WJOL FM. They became WLLI FM in 1974 and WSSR in 2004. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,100 watts. Their studios are at 1884 Plain Avenue in Aurora. The transmitter is off of South Cedar Road near West 159th Street or Illinois State Route 7 in Homer. Star 96.7 is owned by Alpha Media and licensed by Alpha Media LLC. .1 and 96.9 are the same station. 97.1 is WDRV Chicago. That's 97.1, channel 246 is WDRV Chicago. 96.9, channel 245 is WWDV Zion, Illinois. Both stations broadcast in high definition, and they are branded as 97.1 The Drive, Chicago's classic rock. On FM and on the FM analog signal and on HD1 on both stations is classic rock. The HD2 subchannels on both stations is also classic rock, known as deep tracks. WDRV signed on the air on July 9, 1955 as WNIB and became WDRV in 2001. WWDV signed on the air on November 4th, 1962 as WAXO. They would undergo 4 call sign changes with 3 sets of call letters until they became WWDV in 2003, which would become a simulcast of WDRV. Both stations have Class B licenses with the FCC. WDRV operates at 8,300 watts analog, 297 watts digital, from its transmitter at the Aon Center at 200 East Randolph Street in Chicago. WWDV operates 50,000 watts horizontal and 38,000 watts vertical. Their transmitter is located at 11509 Old Green Bay Road in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. Studios for both stations are located at 130 East Randolph Street, number 2700 in Chicago. Both are owned by Hubbard Broadcasting, and both are licensed by Chicago FCC License Sub LLC. 97.7, channel 249 is WLQI, Rensselaer, Indiana. The Q, 97.7. This station plays classic rock, signing on the air in 1973. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,300 watts. Their studios are located at 560 West Amster Road in Rensselaer, Indiana. Their transmitter is at that same location, and they are owned by Brothers Broadcasting Corporation. 97.9, channel 250, broadcasting in high definition is WCKL Chicago. This is the Chicago affiliate of the K-Love Radio Network. On 97.9 FM analog and 97.9-1 is contemporary Christian music. 97.9-2 is Air One, which plays Christian worship music. 97.9-3 is Boost Radio, which is Christian hip hop. And 97.9-4 is Radio Nueva Vida, playing Spanish contemporary Christian music. And this is one of the city's oldest FM stations. They signed on the air on April 7th, 1942 as W83C on 48.3 megahertz. They would move to 100.1 FM in 1946, and the present day 97.9 in 1947. And they had a little bit of an identity crisis. They would undergo 5 call sign changes with 4 sets of call letters. Of course, the most popular of those were WLUP and WLUP-FM. From 1977 until becoming WCKL in 2018. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,000 watts. Programming originates from K-Love's headquarters in Rocklin, California. The transmitter at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, at the previously known as the John Hancock Building. WCKL is owned by the Educational Media Foundation, or EMF. Translator station W256CA 99.1 FM Joliet relays WCKL HD1. Translator station W248BB 97.5 FM Chicago relays the classic hip hop format on 97.9-3. And translator station W268AY 101.5 FM Seward Township, Illinois relays the Spanish contemporary Christian format on HD4. This station, of course, was the previous home of Cumulus-owned WLUP, The Loop, which was a legendary rock station that aired from 1977 until EMF purchased the station in 2018. Short space next to them on 98.1 Channel 251 is WIBN, Oral Park, Indiana. They're known as 98.1 Gold, with an oldies format, signing on air on 98.3 FM in 1983. The station would move down to 90.1 in 1988. They have a Class B1 license with the FCC, broadcasting at 25,000 watts. Studios are located at 130 East McConnell Street in Oxford, Indiana. Their transmitter is off of South 700 West in Parish Grove Township. WIBN is owned by Brothers Broadcasting Corporation. Right next door at 98.3 Channel 252 is WCCQ Crest Hill in Illinois. 98.3 WCCQ, Today's Country and the Legends. This is a country music station affiliated with Westwood One. They signed on the air on January 28, 1976. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,000 watts. Studios are located at 2410 Caton Farm Road in Crest Hill, Illinois. The transmitter is off of West Bluff Road in Chanhassen, Illinois. WCCQ is owned by Alpha Media and licensed to Alpha Media Licensee, LLC. 98.7 Channel 254, broadcasting in high definition, is one of the Windy City's more recognizable stations, and it's WFMT Chicago, known simply as 98.7 WFMT. On 98.7 FM analog and 98.7-1 is classical music with no additional subchannels. This station signed on the air as WOAK at 98.3 FM on May 16, 1948. The station would move to Elmwood Park, Illinois, license 105.9 FM in 1950, and then to 98.7 in 1954. And they would become WFMT in 1951. This makes it one of the longest running classical music stations in the country. WFMT has a Class B license with the Federal Communications Commission. broadcasting at 6,000 watts. Studios are located at 5400 North St. Louis Avenue in Chicago. The transmitter is on the Willis Tower at 233 South Wacker Drive, also in Chicago. WFMT is owned by Window to the World Communications Incorporated, which also owns PBS member station WTTW Channel 11. 99.5 Channel 258, broadcasting in high definition, is WUSN Chicago. US 99, Chicago's hottest country. On 99.5 FM analog and 99.5-1 is country music. 99.5-2 is future country. WUSN signed on the air on 2nd, 1940 as W51C. They would become WWZR in 1943, WEFM in 1946, and WUSN in 1982. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,700 watts. Studios are located inside 2 Prudential, 180 North Stetson Avenue, Suite 1100 in Chicago. Transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, formerly known as the John Hancock Center. WUSN, US 99, Chicago's hottest country, is owned by Odyssey Incorporated and licensed to Odyssey License LLC. And 99.9 Channel 260 is WYHI Park Forest, Illinois, part of the Bible Broadcasting Network, featuring a Christian talk and teaching format with some traditional Christian music as well. They are affiliated with SRN News. WYHI signed on the air on January 5th, 1962 as WKAK. They would undergo 5 call sign changes with 5 sets of call letters, including WCPQ, which they used from 2008 until the station was purchased by BBN and it became WYHI in 2018. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 50,000 watts. Programming originates from the headquarters of the Bible Broadcasting Network in Charlotte, North Carolina. Their transmitter is at 8850 West County Line Road in Peotone, Illinois. WYHI is owned by Bible Broadcasting Network Incorporated. Now, since we're about 38 minutes into the video, this is where I would normally end it, but I think I'm just going to keep going to the end of the commercial band, and I'll just retitle the video when I get done. So we're going to keep going and continue with 100.3 Channel 262, broadcasting in high definition. That's WSHE FM Chicago. They're known as the new 100.3. She loves the 90s and 2000s. On 100.3 FM analog and 100.3-1 is adult contemporary hits from the 90s and 2000s. 100.3-2 is the sports simulcast of ESPN 1000 via an agreement with WMVPAM's owner, Good Karma Brands. WSHE-FM signed on in 1948 as WFMF. They would undergo 5 call sign changes with 5 sets of call until they became WSHE-FM in 2015. A Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,700 watts. Studios are at 1 Prudential Center at 130 East Randolph Street, number 2700 in Chicago. The transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, formerly known as the John Hancock Center. WSHE-FM. The new 100.3 is owned by Hubbard Broadcasting, licensed to Chicago FCC License Sub, LLC. 100.7 Channel 264 is WRXQ, Coal City, Illinois. Q Rock 100.7. This is an active rock station signing on the air as WKBM on February 8, 1990. They became WBVS in 1998 and WRXQ in 2003. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 2,450 watts. Studios are located at 2410 Caton Farms Road in Crest Hill, Illinois. Their transmitter is located off of Illinois State Route 53 in Wilmington, Illinois. Q Rock 100.7 is owned by Walnut Radio, Illinois. 101.1 Channel 266, broadcasting in high definition, is another one of the more recognizable stations in the Windy City, and that's WKQX Chicago. Q101, Chicago's alternative. On 101.1 FM analog and 101.1-1 is alternative rock. 101.1-2 is, of course, The Loop, the legendary classic rock station that used to reside at 97.9. WKQX signed on the air on October 13th, 1948 as NBC-owned WMAQ-FM. This was the counterpart to WMAQ-AM. The station would undergo 5 call sign changes with 5 sets of call letters, including its first run as WKQX from 1977 to 2011. They would ultimately return to WKQX and the alternative rock format in 2014. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,700 watts. Their studios is located on the 6th floor of the NBC Tower, which is home to WMAQ TV Channel 5, at 45 North Cityfront Plaza Drive. Their transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue, formerly known as the John Hancock Building, and both located in Chicago. Q101 is owned by Cumulus Media and licensed to Radio License Holdings, LLC. 101.7 269 is WIVR, Kentland, Indiana. River Country, this country artist. This is a country music station which signed on the air in 2000. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,200 watts. Studios are located at 292 North Convict Street in Borbanus, Illinois. The transmitter is at 2852 East 2480 North Road in Donovan, Illinois. WIVR is owned by Milner Media Partners, LLC. Next, on 101.9 Channel 270, broadcasting in high definition, is WTMX, Skokie, Illinois. 101.9 The Mix. On 101.9 FM analog and 101.9-1 is adult contemporary with no additional sub-channels. This station signed on the air as WRSV on August 18, 1961 on 98.3 FM. They would move to their present home on 101.9 in 1966, became WCLR in 1970, and WTMX in 1989. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,200 watts. Studios are located inside One Prudential Center at 130 East Randolph Street, number 2700 in Chicago. The transmitter is on top of the Willis Tower, 233 South Wacker Drive, Chicago. 101.9 The Mix is owned by Hubbard Broadcasting, licensed to Chicago FCC License Sub LLC. 2.3 Channel 272 has two stations. The first is WXLC Waukegan, which broadcasts in standard analog. They're known as Star 102.3, featuring a hot adult contemporary format. They signed on the air as WEFA in May of 1963 and became WXLC in 1980. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,000 watts. Their studios are located at 6170 Avenue, Suite 111 in Gurnee, Illinois. Their transmitter is at 3250 Belvedere Road in Waukegan. Star 102.3 is owned by Alpha Media and licensed by Alpha Media Licensee LLC. The second station on 102.3, Channel 272, broadcasts in high definition. WYCA Crete, Illinois. Rejoice 102.3 on 102.3 FM analog, and 102.3-1 is Urban Gospel, affiliated with the American Urban Radio Networks. WYCA signed on the air on October 1st, 1964 as WTAS. They would undergo 5 call sign changes, 5 sets of call letters, including WYCA briefly in 2001, and they would return to that same call sign in 2003. Have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1,050 watts. Their studios are at 6336 Calumet Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Offices at 142 East Ontario Street, 1400 in Chicago. WYCA's transmitter, I did not write this down, so sorry about that. WYHD2, Hammond, Indiana, and WYRB 106.3 FM HD3, Genoa/Rockford, Illinois. 102.7 Channel 274, broadcasting in high definition, is WVAZ Oak Park. V103 on 102.7 FM analog and 102.7-1 is Urban Adult Contemporary. 102.7-2 is the simulcast of the Black Information Network, heard on MFN AM 640. WVAZ signed on the air as WOPA-FM on October 17, 1950 on 102.3 FM. They would become WGLD in 1969, WBMX in 1974, with the FM prefix added in 1984, and the current WVAZ in 1988. The station would then move to its current home at 102.7 FM in Oak Park in 1958. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,800 watts analog, 38 watts digital. Studios are at the Illinois Center at 233 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago. The transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, formerly known as the John Hancock Center. WVAZ V103 is owned by iHeartMedia Incorporated, licensed by IHM Licenses LLC. .1 Channel 276 has two stations, and both broadcast in standard analog. The first station is WCSJ FM, Morris, Illinois. Classic Hits WCSJ. This is a full-service classic hits radio station, signing on the air as WJDK in 1993. They would become WYXX in 1998 and WCSJ FM in 2004. The WJDK call letters date back to 1993 when the station signed on. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 6,000 watts. Studios are located at 219 West Washington Street in Morris, Illinois. The transmitter is off of East McCardle Road in Goose Lake Township. WCSJ-FM is owned by Nelson Multimedia Incorporated and licensed to Grundy County Broadcasters Incorporated. The other station on 103.1 is WPNA-FM, Niles, Illinois. WPNA 103.1 FM. This station plays Polish contemporary hits. So this is like a Polish CHR station. They signed on the air on August 15th, 1963 as WEEF-FM. This station would undergo 5 call changes with 4 sets of call letters until they became WPNA-FM in 2017. Now, originally, WPNA-FM was licensed to Highland Park, Illinois, but they have since moved the city of license to Niles. They have a Class A license with the Federal Communications Commission, broadcasting at 6,000 watts. Their studios are located at 6100 North Cicero Avenue in Chicago. The transmitter is located on the Bank One building at 1603 Orrington Avenue in Evanston. WPNA-FM is owned by the Polish National to decrease ERP from 6,000 watts to 2,150 watts from a new transmitter site in Chicago at 5415 North Sheridan Road. Their construction permit expires October 18th, 2026. 103.5 Channel 278, broadcasting in high definition, is WKSC-FM Chicago. 103.5 KISS FM, Chicago's number 1 hit music. On 103.5 FM and 103.1-1 is Top 40 CHR. 103.5-2 is Ride Radio, which is Top 40 and dance music aimed at the LGBTQ plus community. They are affiliated with Premier Networks. WKSC-FM signed on the air in November 1957 as WKFM. This station had an identity crisis also, undergoing 5 call sign changes with 4 sets of call letters, until they became WKSC-FM with its top 40 in 2001. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,300 watts. Studios are located inside the Illinois Center at 233 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 3000 in Chicago. Their transmitter is atop the Willis Tower at 233 South Becker Drive in Chicago. 103.5 KISS FM is owned by iHeartMedia and licensed by IHM Licenses LLC. 103.9 Channel 280 has 2 stations. The first broadcasts in high definition, in fact, they both broadcast in high definition. The first station we'll look at is WAWI Dundee, Illinois, part of the Air One radio network. 103.9 FM analog and 103.9-1 is contemporary worship music. 103.9 is K-Love 90s, which is contemporary 90s. 9-3 is K-Love 2000s, which is contemporary Christian music from the 2000s. About that. WAWI signed on the air on June 8, 1967 as WVFV. The station underwent 5 call sign changes with 5 sets of call letters until they became WAWI under EMF rule in 2019. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 6,000 watts. Programming originates from the K-Love headquarters in Rockland, California. Their transmitter is off of Mill Street / Tower Hill Road in Gilbert, Illinois. WAWI is owned by the Education MF. The second station on 103.9 is aimed at Northwest Indiana, and that's WXRD Crown Point, Indiana. X Rock 103.9, the classic rock of the region, and this station also broadcasts in HD. On 103.9 FM analog and 103.9-1 is classic rock, affiliated with the United Stations radio networks. WXRD signed on the air as WFLM on November 10th, 1972. They would become WWJY in 1982 and WZCO and the current WXRD both in. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1,350 watts. Studios are located at 2755 Sager Road in Valparaiso. Transmitter is off of Grant Street in Lowell, Indiana. X Rock 103.9 WXRD is owned by Adams Radio Group and licensed by ARG of Northern Indiana, LLC. 104.3 Channel 282, broadcasting in high definition, is WBMX Chicago. They're known as either 104.3 Jams or 104.3 BMX Jams. Chicago's #1 for throwbacks. On 104.3 FM analog and 104.3 FM-1 is classic hip hop. 104.3-2 is the sports simulcast of Sports Radio 670 The Score WSCR. WBMX has affiliations with Compass Media Networks. The station signed on the air in September 1953 as WSEL. The station became WJJD-FM in 1960, WJEZ in 1977, WJMK in 1984, and WBMX with its current classic hip-hop format in 2017. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,100 watts analog, 163 watts digital. Studios are located inside 2 Prudential Plaza, 180 North Stetson Avenue, Suite 1100 in Chicago. Their transmitter is atop the Willis Tower at 233 South Wacker Drive in Chicago. WBMX is owned by Odyssey Incorporated and licensed by Odyssey License LLC. 104.7 Channel 284 is WCFL Morris, Illinois. They're branded as WBGL with a Christian adult contemporary format. This station signed on the air on May 24th, 1962 as WRHI-FM. They would become WCSJ-FM in 1977, WUEZ-FM in 1988, and WCFL in 1990. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 50,000 watts. Studios are located at 1 Fieldstone Road in Champaign, Illinois. Their transmitter is off of Stockdale Road in Morris, Illinois. The station is owned by Northwestern Media and licensed to the University of Northwestern at St. Paul. And this station is a simulcast of WBGL 91.7 FM, Champaign, Illinois. 105.1, channel 286, broadcasting in high definition, is WOJO Evanston. La que buena, 105.1 on 105.1 FM analog, and 105.1-1 is 105.1-2 is Streets 95.1, playing contemporary, and 105.1-3 is the Spanish CHR simulcast of Latino Mix 93.5. WOJO signed on the air in February 7 as WEAW on 104.3. The station would move to 96.7 in 1948, and that same year would move to its present-day home at 105.1. They would become WEAW-FM in 1953, and then WOJO in 1972. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 5,700 watts. Studios are located at 541 North Fairbanks Court, number 11 in Chicago, or at 129 West Boger Drive in Arlington Heights. WOJO's transmitter is at 875 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago, formerly known as the John Hancock Building. WOJO La Que 105.1 is owned by Euphoria Audio Network and licensed by Tichenor License Corporation. Translator stations W236CF 95.1 FM Chicago, whose transmitter is also at the Willis Tower. W236CG Bolingbrook, Illinois at 95.1 FM. And W280EM Chicago at 103.9 FM relays the urban contemporary format as Streets 51 on WOJO HD2. 105.5, channel 288 has 3 stations. The first 2 broadcasts in standard analog. And we'll start with WLJE Valparaiso. Indiana 105, the country station from Chicago to South Bend. This is a country music station affiliated with Westwood One. They signed on the air on October 6, 1967 as WXKE-FM. That same year, they would become WAKE-FM before becoming WLJE in 1971. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1,250 watts. Studios are located at 2755 Sager Road in Valparaiso. Their transmitter is at 236 East 600 North, also in Valparaiso. Indiana 105 WLJE is owned by Adams Radio Group and licensed ARG of Northern Illinois or Northern Indiana LLC. The second station on 105.5, also broadcasting in standard analog, is WYKT Wilmington, Illinois. 105.5 The Ticket. This is a sports format station of WLMT. They would become WDND in 1982 and the current WYKT in 1995. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting 1,300 watts. Studios are located at 70 Meadowview Center in Kankakee, Illinois. The transmitter is at the end of Overton Road in Diamond, Illinois. WYKT is owned by Star Radio Corporation. The final station on 105.5 broadcasts in high definition, and that's WZSR Woodstock, Illinois. Star 105.5. On 105.5 FM analog and 105.5-1 is hot adult contemporary with no additional subchannels. They are affiliated with Dial Global. WZSR signed on the air on April 1st, 1968 as WSTK. The station became WXRD in 1974, WXET in 1984, WAIT-FM in 1988, and the current WZSR in 1991. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 1600 US 14 in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Their transmitter is pretty much in the same area in Crystal Lake, just off US 14. WZSR is owned by Alpha Media and licensed by Alpha Media Licensee, LLC. Alrighty. Final page, final 7 stations. So we're just about done here. All right, we talked about WCFS FM 105.9 during the layout of WBBM AM. So that's up in my AM stations reissue, which you can check out right now. So we'll move along to 106.3 channel 292, which has 2 stations, and both are broadcasting in high definition. The first is WSRB, Lansing, Illinois. 3 WSRB on 106.3 FM. 6.3-1 is Urban Adult Contemporary. They signed on the air as WLNR on August 28, 1960. The station would undergo 4 call sign changes with 4 sets of call letters until they became WSRB in 2003. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 4,100 watts. Their studios are located at 63 Avenue in Hammond. Offices are at 142 East Ontario Street, number 1400 in Chicago. Their transmitter is at 2903 Bernice Road in Lansing, Illinois. 106.3 WSRB is owned by Crawford Broadcasting and licensed to Dontron Incorporated. And their programming is simulcast on the station we're going to talk about next, and that's WYRB 106.3 HD2, Genoa, Rockford. So now let's talk about the aforementioned Genoa, Illinois, which also broadcasts in HD. On 106.3 and 106.3-1 is Rhythmic Contemporary. 106 points of the station we just talked about, 106.3 WSRB contemporary format. And 106.3 is the Urban Gospel simulcast of Rejoice 102 WYCA. WYRB signed on the air as WOXM on October 6, 1995. The station became WSQR on May 24, 2001, WYCH on October 26, 2001, and finally WYRB on September 30th, 2003. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,800 watts. The studios and sales office is located at 850 North Church Street, Suite 402 in Rockford, Illinois. Their transmitter is in Franklin Township off of Alt Road. YRB is owned by Dontron Incorporated, which is a subsidiary of Crawford Broadcasting. 106.7 channel 294, broadcasted in high definition, is WPPN Des Plaines, Illinois. And they broadcast in HD, as I said. This station is known as Amor 106.7 on 106.7 FM analog and 106.7-1 is Spanish adult contemporary with no additional subchannels. They signed on the air as WYCN on December 3rd, 1971. Undergoing 5 call sign changes with 5 they became WPPN in 2004. They have a Class B license with the FCC, broadcasting at 50,000 watts. Studios are located at either 541 North Fairbanks Court number 11 in Chicago or 129 West Drive in Arlington Heights. Speaking of which, their transmitter is right next door at 121 West Boger Drive in Arlington Heights. Amor 106.7 WPPN is owned by the Euphoria Audio Network and licensed to Univision Radio Illinois Incorporated. Programming is relayed on translator station W295CG 106.9 FM, Lake Bluff, Illinois. 107.1 Channel 296 has 2 stations. The first is WSPY FM, Plano, Illinois. WSPY Service Adult Contemporary Station, signing on the air on January 19th, 1974. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 3,100 watts. Their studios are at 2410 Sycamore Road, Suite C in DeKalb, Illinois. Their transmitter is at 16524 Fraser Road in Plano, Illinois. WSPY FM is owned by Larry and the second station on 107.1 Channel 296 is WZVN Low, Indiana. Z107.1 with adult contemporary format. Signing on the air on November 21st, 1972 as WLCL FM. The station became WZVN in 1981. They have a Class A license with the FCC, broadcasting at 2,650 watts. Their studios are located at 2755 Sager Road in Valparaiso, Indiana. The transmitter is off of Grant Street in Lowell. Z107.1 WZVN is owned by Adams Radio Group and licensed to ARG of Northern Illinois LLC. All right, we are stations. So we're just about finished here. 107.5 Channel 98, broadcasting in high definition, is one of my favorite hip-hop stations in the entire country, and that's WGCI. 107.5 WGCI, the Shy's #1 for hip-hop and R&B. On 107.5 FM analog and 107.5-1 is urban contemporary with no additional subchannels. They are affiliated with Premier Networks. WGCI FM signed on the air on December 4th, 1958 as WFMQ. They would become WNVS, or rather WNUS FM in 1965. And then WGCI in 1975 with the FM suffix added in 1983. They have a Class B license with the FCC, running at 3,700 watts. Studios are located inside the Illinois Center at 233 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 3000 in Chicago. The transmitter is at the Willis Tower on 233 South Wecker Drive in Chicago. 107.5 WGCI is owned by iHeartMedia Incorporated, licensed by IM Licenses LLC. The final station Channel 300. Broadcasting in high def WLEY FM, Aurora, Illinois. 107.9 on 107.9 FM analog and 107.1 is regional Mexican music. 107.9 HD2 is the Spanish tropical simulcast of co-owned Mega 97.9 WSKQ-FM New York. WLEY-FM signed on the air as WMRO-FM in 1965. They would become WAUR in 1969, WYSY-FM in 1988, and WLEY-FM in 1997. They have a class located at 150 North Michigan, 1040 in Chicago. The transmitter is off of East Army Trail Road in Glendale Heights, Illinois, and I think that's the WBBM AM and WSCR uses. And that is a look at the Chicago FM radio station's reissue for 2024. I had originally thought about doing it in 3 parts, but given that I was only 37 minutes when I got my allotted portion of the video done, I decided to get the entire commercial ban. So now it's all out. The Chicago radio market has been reissued. The next reissue will be Dallas Fort Worth. I'll start getting to work on that next week, and we'll have that up soon. So join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.